I'm really pleased that that Fabrice has accepted our invitation and came, selected films for the festival, and also decided that we will be able to talk more about his films, about him as a director, and so on. So the audience has already had an opportunity to see a couple of his films, Vinyan and Alleluia, and also a couple of films which Fabrice chose for the festival. So I will start from the very beginning, if I may. I mean, it's always difficult to find something more about you on the internet. I mean, the only kind of full bio is on Wikipedia, which you recommended personally. And in your biography, it's mentioned that you studied at the Jesuit school.
Yeah.
It was a boarding school.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have a look at your films, like, and especially names like Calvaire and Alleluia, and the one which you're preparing, if I may mention, which is going to be called
Adoration.
Adoration. So somehow it did remind me of, you know, because of your, let's say, upbringing in a way, something like a Buñuel in a way, that he was raised in a very strict Catholic family, and so then he kind of reflected this upbringing. So is it something which you kind of reflect concerning the religion? It's not the religion itself, as in Buñuel's films, but there is some spirituality in your films.
Or, well, you mentioned Buñuel, who's a great master, you know, so I don't want to compare to Buñuel, but I love Buñuel work because it's always deep and funny and surreal in a very strange way, because he always reach something very very emotional and peculiar about the human soul in a very funny way, I think. And he plays with all the iconic religious theme and context. So it's always great for me to. I discovered Buñuel a little bit late. I was 20, 25, and I was very surprised and amusing. And I find many connections, especially at that time I was very obsessed by Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a way, and I thought discovering Buñuel that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is very Buñuelian. It could be Buñuel who makes that movie, because there is the fun of it, you know. It twists all the elements. You understand what I mean? Or?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's there definitely will be a space for questions. So maybe now it's time for a beer.
Good.
Damn. So, okay. You were mentioning all those films, and so I would like to maybe know, because how did you become passionate about cinema? When and how? When did it all start?
Well, I think it was. I always thought that I will work. Thank you very much. I always wanted to make movies. At the beginning, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the television and the films in general. So I thought that I will probably become an actor, and I studied theater and stuff like that. But at the moment I studied theater, I realized that I don't want to be an actor. I prefer to be outside and on the other side of the screen. And I always been passionate about movies and collect, you know, poster or image of actresses, of actors, of director, of. I think that's maybe because of the boarding school. At boarding school, we used to have a kind of a cine club, and well, it was very cheesy movies, but I love it. You know, it was Rambo and Supercopter and stuff like that. But I love it deeply, and I was very excited when we had the chance, the opportunity to have a screening. And then after I collect, movie magazines, stuff like that. So I've been always obsessed by that. And about actresses mostly. Yeah, I have to say.
You can see
To be completely honest.
the audience can see the passion that you have for making films in the films themselves. So it really comes from a person who is, let's say, obsessed with cinema and grew up on it, and especially in the era of VHS and these kind of things. So.
Yeah.
So what was the turning point? You just you mentioned, but was there? Usually there are people who are in film and directors and so on. So sometimes they say like there was one film which really kind of changed my life in a way. Is there any?
Yeah, of course. For me, of course I was familiar with movies before, but at one point I discovered Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was just like when you discover Dostoevsky in literature, there is something, a new world. You feel texture of the world. You can feel how thick it is. And I realized with Texas Chainsaw Massacre that it could be art. It could be an art form. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Toby Hooper's movie revealed me another world. And with that peculiar movie, I made connection. I made connection, of course, with Hitchcock because Psycho, and then I felt completely obsessed with, and I felt completely in love with Hitchcock films. And Hitchcock brings you to many directors, Friedkin, Buñuel, many directors. So for me, the moment was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And did you see it in cinema or?
No, on VHS, because I was a kid, so it was forbidden in France. That movie was for a long time forbidden in France.
It was one of those video nasties.
Yes. So, at that time at boarding school, I have my mother allow me when I get home to rent some VHS, and I was completely attracted by the horror section because of the jacket, because of the visual, because the visual seemed so eerie. It was, Argento and all those nasties movie and all those beautiful women, full of blood and
in danger.
In danger and the monster. And so I was completely, into that. And I always ask a question to the manager of the VHS store, and one day he said to me, "Well, you have to watch that."
Yeah, when you
grow up.
And
well, I was shaking, really, honestly. I was, wow, what's that? So it brings you to another layer, in fact. So you can realize that it could be something unique. You can push the boundaries. You can explore something else. You can explore something. It's just like when you discover Bergman, in a way. I discovered Bergman long time after that, of course. And now I consider Bergman just like the supreme film director. It's about the human soul. It's something, but it just to be able to have the taste of it. When you it depends of the people, but when you have 20, there is a lot of, you didn't get it. But now I always taste all the savor. You understand what I mean?
And you're speaking about your kind of initiation, but then you started. I found out in your biography that you collaborated on writing humorous sequences for TV series.
You mean? Yeah, it was
for Canal Plus.
Yeah. Well, that's
so it was like it was you used it only as a kind of a step to get into.
No, that was just work, I have the ability to and I'm still working for Canal Plus sometimes, because it's easy money and it's fun to do, honestly. and I always try to find. I don't want to be. I'm really a free man, you know. I want to be on my own boss.
Yeah.
I want to get the time to do what I have to do. I can't stand being facing pressure by others. So I want to live my own rhythm. Sometimes I always looking the right thing to do to be able to support myself and my family, and to have a lot of free time.
No, the reason why I was asking is like this kind of dichotomy between let's say funny. I mean, I haven't seen those TV series, so I don't know what kind of humor they use and so on. But on this funny side and the side which is really dark and goes deep. Okay, it is humorous
Yeah,
at certain points, but it's not funny in the end. Or
Yeah, well, it depends. I think there is a grotesque aspect of it, but it will probably change. You know, I'm still a young director,
You're still
so
young, yeah.
I hope I'm gonna be able to make some others movie and to improve.
so then you made your first short.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't first. I mean, Wonderful Love was the second one, wasn't it?
No, it was my first short on film.
1999.
And it was very important for me because we were completely virgin at that time. Virgin, I mean, we didn't have any idea of how it could happen or could occur, a kind of professional shooting. So I had a friend who became a very famous DOP right now. He's Benoit Deby. I used to work. Benoit Deby shot, you know, the Gaspard Noé movie, Harmony Korine's movie, a lot of different great movies, contemporary and modern movies. And Benoit used to work with me at television at Canal Plus, and we had that passion, you know, and when we get the money for that short, it was very surprising because the short was very pushy, you know. We were very surprised to get a little bit money from the Belgian government, and we shot on Super 16, and it's still my favorite way to shoot a movie. And we explore. I said, Benoit, you have to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you have to watch Dario Argento's movie. And he saw it, and then we experiment some stuff with that movie, and it was just like a revelation for both of us. So after that, I decided, I want to make a feature, a long one, and it's been a very long way into the desert because it was complicated to raise the money, and it was quite.
It took you
5 years.
5 years
Yeah,
from Wonderful
yeah.
Love to Calvaire.
Yeah.
And basically, your debut is called Wonderful Love, and when you have a look at your work, you deal with absolute and mad love without any boundaries, basically.
Yeah, well, I'm not now. Of course, I'm a little bit aware of that because I made some movies, so I can have a perspective. And in fact, yeah, I always dig the same subject. I don't know why, honestly. I don't know
That's
why.
the question. Like, what is there that attracts you so strongly to love? And it's all goods and bads, and you know, the complexity of loving, to love and being loved.
Because I think it's big part of our condition. We all wanted to be loved and to love in return, and most of the time it's mad. So I think it's a great subject to dig, and it's very funny and very compelling and very moving, and very cinematic. I think so.
Yeah, and your films are very physical, you know, visceral.
Yeah, because I love being physical. I think I'm probably very physical myself in my life. I'm very intense. I'm very committed. I'm very passionate. in everything I do, I have to say. But in movies, it's worse than worse. I push everything, and shooting a movie with me for actors is very exhausting.
So,
They love it. It's great collaboration, but it's very exhausting. I'm very demanding. I'm very
so is it like as you push your audience
yeah.
to the certain boundaries, even to break them? So do you do something with your actors in a way to get the?
No, because
I
it's
mean, not literally. Of
no,
course,
no.
but
It's always with them collaboration. It's always. My sets are very happy. Everybody belongs, except when I make some different. Sometimes I made some command. As we said in French, it's mean you're a director on hire.
For hire, yeah.
So I've made that a couple of times, and sometimes it could be difficult because actors, especially in the system, they don't used to work like that. And I have an only way to work. It's working. I think I'm very intense during a shooting. I talk a lot. I move a lot. I touch the actors. I push them. I just work just like a painter. I mean, I switch light. I go. I'm never sitting. I'm always in movement. So sometimes actors they are a little bit confused at the beginning, but at one point they are confident. Also because they can see how their improvements on the dailies. They can see that how good they are at one point. But in fact, I realized something that movies is not only movies. For me, I mean, movies it's a way of living. It's very existential. Without movie, I could not stand to live. I need to do that. If not, there is no point for me. Because when I prepare a movie, and I think maybe it's a little bit silly, but I think it's a disease that many directors have had. You go through something very intense. You have the feeling that you live very, very much. You can be passionate. You can fall in love. You feel alive. You feel very, very alive. So when it's done, it's always difficult to face the day-per-day life.
yeah, it's like Sab Pekito said, like the end of filming is like the death itself in a way, like
yeah, there is
of
that
a certain life.
Yeah, and you can see that in La Nuit Américaine by François Truffaut. I think very well how intense a movie can be, and the life itself in a movie can be so alive. And it could be a disease because you have to learn to be alive in the real life,
Yeah.
especially when you have kids, when you have friends, when you have family. But it's always something that's attract me in a shooting, and I cannot say no to a shooting because it brings you to a kind of altered state of mind, altered position. You understand what I mean? It's yeah, well.
In your films, you quite often use or kind of use the, let's say, fantasy genre in a way. I'm not a magic, blurring boundaries between reality and fiction in Vinyan, in Alleluia, in Calvaire. So it's like though your films like a very strange fairy tales in a way.
Well.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I really don't know. I think that's it's an appreciation, so I can take that. It could be a fairy tale. Calvaire could be a fairy tale. They all could be a fairy tale. it's because also I'm a little bit a kind of a crossover director. You know, that's an issue probably that's especially in French-speaking part of Europe, the heritage of Maurice Pialat is so intense, you know. So everything has to be realistic today, you know. And I have difficulties with that. I hate realist people, you know. I hate realists. I'm not a realist. I don't want to be a realist. And for me, Pialat is not a real realist. Pialat transcends realism. You can be, Dardenne brother transcend realism in some movies. You can be a realist in when you do hyper-realism, you can transcend something. You know, just like in painting, you can reach another perception. But being only realistic, you know, it's very boring for me. So, and my background is horror movie are my first love. You know, I grew up watching horror movie. I was obsessed with horror. But there is different level of horror. Now today, I have to say I'm not very attracted with horror anymore because horror became very cynical, especially from Blumhouse. It's boring, very misogynistic, you know, it's very, very... And when you are a teenager and you're watching some Cronenberg's movie or horror movie, you know, there is a vision, or Carpenter movies, you know, there is a vision about society, about a woman, about men, about children, about what a society can be, and there is a level of poetry also. So I think I have to face, and I'm in the struggle right now between a realism aspect of my films and the fairy tale. And sometimes I think the struggles goes a little bit. And now I think I need to make some position. Because in Hallelujah, because I made that movie a few years ago, and I have a little bit of distance and a few steps back. But I can see how the last act, for example, it's completely different from the first act. On the aesthetical point, you know, it was on purpose. Huh? It's not something that I didn't choose to do. But I realized how great it was to work in the last act, for example. But film are always in movements. But I can't deny my background, that's for sure. So the fairy tale aspects will probably stay.
Yeah, because even if you take, let's say, a real life story like the Honeymoon Killers, or even, I don't know whether the Vinian was based on, but it is based on tsunami, and on which is and was real, the event itself. But you kind of elevate it into this this kind of strange fairy tale in a way, and blurring the boundaries. Is it real or it's not? And you, at the end, the audience just doesn't know, but it doesn't really matter whether it is reality or fantasy.
Yeah, but
just like how it kind of tells what kind of how it, I call it, it moves you, but not moves you to tears, but moves you inside, like pushes you somewhere.
Yeah, well, if it does that to some people, I'm very happy. Because
it can make you angry. It can make you. I mean, you know, there are a lot of different kind of emotions.
Yeah, but my movies are absolutely not. How you say that in English? Pleasant, you know. They are not huge. They are not.
They're not cuddly.
They are not cuddly. They are against. You know, it's always and that's sometimes very problematic for me, because when you make movies, you want the audience loves the movie, but In fact, I'm struggling between that. Sometimes I want the audience loves my movie, and sometimes I prefer that they hate the movie. But that's an inner struggle in me. I think sometimes that's my schizophrenic aspect. I need to consult. I need to find an exit to that. But I lost something that you. Well, I mean, for the reality. Yeah, it's always better for me. It's always more attractive to me to be confused about reality. Because there is many ways to see reality. You have vision, you have obsession. The mind can prevail on the real. So you don't know exactly what's wrong in.
It's like reality is just the starting point.
Yeah, you can distort the reality, and that's the goal of any artist. I mean it. I don't want to sound pompous and say I'm an artist and blah blah blah. No, I mean because I'm more obsessed with film by others. I'm a very cinephile. I love movies, so or literature or painting, but my goal, my quest when I'm looking movies or when I'm looking about painting or a book, it's to face vision, to face someone who can distort the reality, who can give me a sense of a madness, of an emotion, but enrich the kind of that poetical level. Yeah.
Speaking about the characters, and it's always in a certain way. I'm not saying that difficult to relate to them, but I guess I perceive your films concerning the characters that are the films are really have a tight structure. For example, in Alleluia, that you root for Gloria, who is lonely and looks for love. Everyone wants to be loved, and then she meets
Michelle.
She means Lauren Lucas and Michelle. But slowly, it kind of the tables are turned in a way that in the end she's the one who is really crazy and mad, and he could easily be a good father. Those scenes, the last act, which you were telling me. So, and also, for example, in Vinian and in Calvert, but I don't want to go into Calvert because we're going to see it after this. But it's like first they are sympathetic, but slowly when they kind of delve and go deep into their madness, you just kind of lose your connection with them. Is it kind of this evolution of characters and switching tables? Is it intentional? You want to kind of play with the audience this way? Or?
Yeah, I love that. Because I don't think we are made in one piece. We change a lot, especially a love story. A love story, I have the feeling that a love story could be it's the beginning of the fascism in a way. There is always one person in a couple who try to impose his vision to the others. But it can change. There is a man who can say, well, it's like that, and then the woman can prevail when take over. It's a man or a woman, or a man or a man, or a woman or a woman. And there is no rule about love, but there is always. And also our nature, we change a lot. And that's why in literature you can find that with Dostoevsky, for example. People can be very different in different way because. All the code of the dramaturgy today, not today, but it changed a lot, of course. But we have the archetype, and the archetype for me is boring. I think that's something that because I'm obsessed with people, and I try to modestly to understand and to grow up and to watch and to understand myself and the others. And I know that I have instinct, and I have to fight my instinct, and I have to fight I have a nature, I have instinct, and sometimes it's not in balance. And I think we all like that. We all like that, and that's why you can meet a woman 6 months later, she can be completely mad, and the reverse is possible too.
Okay, I don't know what time it is. So, as we mentioned in the beginning, you started your cinematic journey, I mean, at a young age, watching VHS, and now you prefer to shoot on film, not digital. For example, Alleluia was shot on
Super 16.
Super 16, yes. Yeah. Calvert 35?
No, Super 16.
Super 16, yeah. So, yeah, and now in the digital era, which is, but because it's more expensive and much more difficult, or isn't it? I mean,
it's a little bit more expensive. It's because we became very lazy, I think, and also the digital industry fucked us badly. It's ugly. I've seen the last movie of Anneke yesterday here, and believe me, Anneke is a great master, but I thought it was very not beautiful. Yeah. And even the last film of Darden Brother are terrible, visually, I mean. And I don't understand why people wants to shoot in digital. And also because I don't know how we're gonna preserve all those DCP. When you work on film, you have wheels and you can preserve, and the Cinematik, and you can preserve that. It's concrete. Now with the fucking DCP, what's gonna happen with all those movies? Yeah. What's gonna happen? I don't know. They look bad, and they are very terrible to restore.
Yeah, maybe it's what you say that it's about this laziness. Because it's kind of a saying that digital is cheap, so let's do it. Anyone can do it, but I don't think that anyone can. I mean, maybe I'm a purist, but I don't think that everyone should make films. I'm going into a dangerous territory.
No, you're probably right. But there is something that I've learned also. My last movie, I shot a movie in Los Angeles. It was an indie movie with kind of a little studio, my last one, and I succeed to shot on 35 there in Hollywood, and I said, well, it's Hollywood. Yeah, I mean. No. Sorry.
No, go on, please.
No, I mean it's Hollywood, and in Hollywood, there is a lot of great technician.
Yeah.
But I have so many problems shooting on 35 because the gaffer and the first AC were terrible. Terrible, I mean it's terrible. I have 3 days off, not sharp. Everything was off.
Yeah, the films which Fabrice is talking about are his two latest ones, which are Cold 45. Message from the King. But I'm saying, I just wanted to make it clear that we only chose after discussions with Fabrice only three films, which is Calvaire, Vignan, and Alleluia, which are films. If you can remember, in the beginning of this conversation, he was mentioning that Fabrice just has the urge to work, and you need to work. So you sometimes are directed for hire. So these are like Calvaire, Vignan, and Alleluia are Fabrice's personal films. That's why we chose them. And so we then, in the end, decided not to include Cold 45 and Message from the King. So I just wanted to explain that why, because Fabrice has made 5 films so far.
Yeah.
But we only chose 3 of them. But you can see the latest one on Netflix. How long will it stay there?
I don't know.
But it was the Netflix bought the film.
But they bought the film.
You weren't commissioned by Netflix, or you?
No, the Netflix bought the film last year at the Toronto Film Festival. But my point was about the digital and how because all those technicians they have a great CV, you know, they used to work a lot with great director, you know, Fincher, Stone, but impossible to be sharp on a 150 millimeter lens and in movement. It's incredible. And also the eye, but the light. It just you can make an analogy with you know, the cathedral. You know, it's something that's gone. We won't be able to reproduce a cathedral today because we don't know exactly how to do it, because that corpus of job has completely disappeared. Of course, it's not like that today, but it's strange that because it makes part of the magic of the cinema. For me, cinema is a kind of alchemy, you know, and making to be sharp, to being a first AC, it reveals some magic. You need to have a mojo. You need to feel the scene. You need to feel the actor. You need to be, you know, it's intuition. And today it's so boring. You have and you during the scene you can and you are you understand what I mean? You are sharp all the time, and even for the dailies, you don't have that excitement to wait for your dailies and to be able to see what you have shot. No, you know exactly what you have shot, and I think it's terrible. Because the art of for me, I mean, that's my fight. Cinema is an alchemy. It's something you start with like that, and then you have something like that. That's great. That's magic.
Absolutely.
And today, you know, with those fucking digital stuff,
Sorry.
you know, I think you lose the magic.
Yeah.
So that's why cinema most of the time, it's very flat, you know?
Yeah.
Flat.
Absolutely. You like the feel, you know?
Yeah, I like the texture. I like being completely involved with all my senses. You know, everything you need, and being smelling. Just like no, I love being project in kind of a universe that you have some flavor. You can smell.
Yeah, definitely there are films, you know, in history where, for example, when you watch Wild Bunch by Sam Peckinpah, you can feel the sand,
sweat.
You know, gritting and sweat, and it's so absolutely, and it is kind of became flat.
Yeah. Clean. Everything is so clean today.
Yeah, antiseptic.
Yeah. No hair.
Okay, so now, if you want to ask a question, a couple of questions, now's the time.
You just mentioned the paper, that it is the beginning of everything. So could you tell us something about your work as a screenwriter? Like, what is the how you go from the very beginning, like from the idea to the story to the screenplay, and then shooting your own screenplay? What part of it maybe you like the best? And
You mean the screenplay? What exactly you want to know?
no, like tell us about the process.
The process.
Is there any idea at the beginning? Is it every time the same kind of process, or is it very different?
No, it's constantly evolve. Today, I'm more able to write, to have more clear idea, and I have that urge to make some movies. So I write a lot, and I have different scripts ready. So it's more easier for me to write today than it was before. But the most intense part for me is the shooting. I was always obsessed with the shooting, but I realized you need to have a strong material. It gives you more freedom, in fact, I think. The more your script is solid, and strong, the more freedom you have. I met a director yesterday who said to me at lunchtime, well, I don't need to write because Godard don't need to write. So why writing a script? It's boring. I said, well, yeah, well, there is only one Godard, but...
So do you improvise a lot?
Yeah, but I improvise in a very, very structured scene. I have a structure, I can improvise. I cannot improvise without boundaries, I need to have a frame, and I can improvise. And it's great to improvise, to be very free in that frame. Because it starts to have, you can improvise with a great collaboration with the actors, the DOP, the sound, every part of the team can collaborate, and you have a strong vision, and you can lead all those collaborative ideas to your vision. So that's something very, very great to do, I think.
Any more questions? I mean, I'd love to sit here and talk with Fabrice and with you discuss, but yeah, the time, I mean, it's not up yet, but please, if you want to ask something. How many of you have seen the films which we are screening? I mean, how many of you did go to see Vinian and Alleluia? Okay. So yeah, you've seen it, you felt it. So please, if you want to ask, just go ahead. Yep, let's have a beer. Okay, so if you do not have any more questions, and if you do not mind, we can call it a day. I mean, for this, and we will see each other in a very short time for the introduction of Calvaire,
Okay.
which will be in a couple of minutes. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Fabrice, for coming. Thank you very much for coming.